Angles, good morning, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Diva, and good afternoon to the audience out there. I am excited and grateful to be here and to have this opportunity to be able to connect with your audience and help them boost their business.
So tell us a little bit about yourself before we start, because I've got some questions that have already come in.
Oh, fantastic. I love answering questions. A little bit about myself. Long story short, I was in college. A roommate of mine was decided to throw an event, a party event, and I had no idea about how to host a party, how to throw parties, and how to conduct a business because at the end of the day, we wanted to make money. So we had about 2 to 3 months to put this event together. We negotiated, identified the host for houses, broke out the task, and started promoting. This was my very first business experience. By the time it was done, we had a VIP experience where everybody who was in there loved it. The standard general admission, everybody loved it. The music was good, different rooms with different DJs, all amazing reviews. And that's why I had the idea, we did so good. Why don't we go for bigger? So we started playing with the big boys. This was in Boston. So we negotiated with a club, decided to do an event at a club. But this time, we didn't do everything we did with the first event. We waited 2 weeks prior to have the promotion happen. We used to have a team of 14. We reduced it to 4. We weren't taking it as serious. We weren't as committed. Next thing we know, it was an absolute disaster. And me and my roommate, we ended up putting money out of our own pocket, massive loss. It took us years, us being college students. So as you could imagine, we were already broke to begin with. And and that started the journey for me. That helped me or planted the seed asking the question, what really makes business successful? So I started researching and investigating and realized that businesses and startups have a huge failure rate. And that's where I created a plan, acted on that plan, got my MBA, worked for big companies like Apple, Amazon, focused on launching products. Then I was happy with that career, picked up all the skill sets that I wanted, and I wanted to work with entrepreneurs. So I started working in venture capital. And there I tested a lot of the framework that I picked up from the big guys with these startups, tested, and now I got frameworks and strategies that are better tested. And now I'm on my own helping entrepreneurs directly.
Oh my goodness. Great, great. Well, let's get down to some of these questions then, because it's, in the space where we are today, where we're just constantly just viewing something. Either we're on our computers or we're on our phones. We're always watching something, right? So
Yeah.
if you're an entrepreneur and you're out there and you're not part of that mix, then somebody else is taking your space. So let's find out from Angles, what can we do? So I have a question here that says, how do I consistently attract high quality leads instead of relying on referrals and word of mouth, which are really unpredictable?
That's a big question, Diva. But let's go ahead and get started. The simple answer to that is have a system in place, a process step by step, execute on that on a consistent basis. So I want to talk about Chet Holmes. He was hired by Charlie Munger. I'm not sure if people know who Charlie Munger was. He basically was Warren Buffett's advisor and it was a multi-billionaire. And Chet Holmes was brought in to double revenue from an ad perspective for a specific company. Essentially, they sold the trade magazines, and Chet Holmes had to sell the ad space. And this is a really powerful story because this story I think is gonna give a good example of what folks, your audience, ought to do in order for them to achieve the same success that he did. So he went about and identified the customer base and realized that only 1% of ad spenders are the ones who basically generate the revenue for a lot of these trade journals. So he came up with the concept of Dream 100. He identified the ideal top 100 customers for that particular business. He came up with that criteria, researched who they were, how much funds they had, and so on and so forth. And with that, once he identified who they were, he created a system and he kept up with that system. So he did consistent follow-up every once in a while on a cadence, sending them invaluable insights, helping them come up with ideas in terms of how to grow their business, sharing them industry news. So what did that do for him? It helped them become an established authority because now these people were trained to see him as a go-to person to understand anything industry related. He also created a whole bunch of multiple touch points to reach them. So calls, direct mail, emails, events. So he identified by understanding who these two Dream 100 people were. He identified what events they attend, when they're gonna attend, and so on and so forth. So he made sure he was there and was able to connect with them. And he even sent them gifts. And then the third one was he focused a lot of time on building personal relationships. Many people, many entrepreneurs nowadays, they're really focused on the transaction. Yes, at the end of the day, the transaction puts food on the table. However, it's the relationship that is going to put a meal for you for years to come. So where I'm going with this is Dream 100, or say it differently, know your customer, understand who they are, what are the pain points, what are the desires, what is it that how do they identify themselves? Are they high achievers, standard, risk takers, or not? Because I have worked with so many entrepreneurs, and the consistent area that I see that is a massive gap or an opportunity for entrepreneurs to work on is really understanding who their customer are. So let's talk about financial service, for example. I think some of your audience members are financial services, tax preparers, and so on. So I have worked with some where they said everybody needs to improve their wealth, to have a wealth plan. Like, I guess I agree. What about vehicles? Everybody needs a vehicle. At the end of the day, a vehicle is going to take you from point A to point B. However, there's different types of customers out there. And that's the way to think about it. So if we think about vehicles and we think about high-end customers who want the premium, they want the status, they want exclusivity, these are folks that are looking for a vehicle, a car that is top performing, gives them prestige, has cutting-edge features. It helps maintain their status, their reputation. They don't want to deal with any hassles of cheap solutions. They want to feel successful and respected, and I could go on and on and on. These type of individuals, they want vehicles like Mercedes-Benz, Tesla. Actually, at Tesla, people who go to Tesla, some of them are very environmental focused. So as you could see, by understanding your customer, you can now work on what I call props, which is your promotion. What messaging are you going to use? Your reach, where are you going to find them? The offer, what product makes the most sense for this particular customer? And then the last one, the price point. So if you're dealing with affluent folks, then the prices, you could command a higher price. So dealing with the cars, we talked about these higher achievers who wants exclusivity. What about the families who are busy, who prioritize safety, who prioritize reliability? Think of a mother who identifies herself as a soccer mom. She has kids who go to soccer practice, right? So she has this fear of putting her family at risk. She wants the actual vehicle, whatever it is that she purchased, to last and not to break down. She wants that peace of mind so she could go to bed and rest easily. Because of the pain points and the desires that I just mentioned about this soccer mom, then vehicles that will stand out to her will be Toyota Highlander, the Honda Pilot SUVs, right? The messaging that will work for her to catch her attention: security, ease of use, long-term reliability, trusted by many families, right? So as you could see, once you understand who your ideal customer is, you could start to shape prop. You could start working on that messaging. You could start tailoring an offer that works for them. You could find where they're located, similar to how Chet Holmes did it. And does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. But this leads right into this next question, because the next question is really, how can they attract clients who can actually need and afford their services? Because everybody needs a vehicle in your example, right? But you have some people driving Beamers and others driving, the old Pintos of the world. So how do we attract the ones that we know who the avatar is, but how do we know who can afford our services?
Yeah, so good question. So what I would say is, so to attract them, I think typically a lot of folks, what they try to do is go to ads, and they go ahead and put out ads out there as often as possible. And it goes back to the very first bullet point that I was talking about, which is really understand your customer. Once you understand your customer, the ads that were not really targeted are now very targeted. The messaging that was generic and not specified, they're very specific, right? Using the mother example, safety, reliability, built to last. Like that's language that is going to resonate with her. And there's different ways to, and outside of ads, actually, one other point in regards to ads, since I'm on the topic of that, there's also what's called retargeting. So let's say you just spoke with a potential prospect. He didn't decide to move forward. That's okay. You could do retargeting. And retargeting means is you use his email, put it in Facebook ad, for example, and Facebook is going to continue putting ads and ads in front of him, reminding him that you're still around. So that's one way of doing it. So let's talk about organic in terms of attracting customers. Organic is as simple as posting something, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And I'm just generalizing and saying social media, but it's up to you as the entrepreneur to identify and really understand your ideal customer and where this person congregates. Because if they're not in Facebook, Facebook is of no value to you. If they're in Quora and that's where they spend most of their time, then you want to spend time there answering questions, for example. There's also newsletters. So once you get somebody's email, having that newsletter, making it available. And if you have a newsletter that provides so much insight, so much value, word of mouth is going to spread and people are going to find out. Partnerships with influencers. So for example, joining somebody's podcast. So let's step back a little bit. Let's talk about Oprah. Before Oprah Winfrey became a billionaire, people already associated her as a billionaire. The question is why? Because she was interviewing billionaires. So entrepreneurs could take the role of being a reporter, interviewer, and interview a whole bunch of experts on a specific topic or field. And people are going to associate them with those experts in the industry. And that's going to help them become experts. And by putting yourself out there through whether it's podcasts, YouTube videos with other folks or what have you, that is going to help you get more audience, get people attracted to you. So for example, Diva, you and I, right now we're having an interview. Your audience, they trust you. And because you're interviewing me, you're transferring that trust over to me. So now they're trusting me, or at least will give me the benefit of the doubt.
That's
Trust,
why I'm very selective on who's on the show.
and that's a good thing, because you being selective is going to build more trust and a better relationship with your audience. So me jumping on this podcast with you helps me broaden my audience and the people that I could serve. And then the other one would be events. Actually, one other thing in regards to partnership. So that is one example. Other types of partnership could be offering your service or working with another individual to work together. So for example, you can have a financial advisor work with a tax preparer. Both different services, but they could work together to create a bundle, a package for potential customers that is looking for the holistic solution. And these days, holistic solution is much more profound and much more valuable than isolated solutions. So partnership is definitely one of the ways that's going to help individuals expand their reach. And then the other piece is events. By having events, then that gives people the opportunity to get to know you, bring other folks, meet people of like minds, and be able to get a better sense of who's who within the industry.